Marcos. Ethan should be here. I haven't heard from him, but oh, there he is in the waiting room.
Okay, then. It is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'd like to announce the meeting is being recorded. Jonathan, can you call the roll?
Yes. 1 second. Let me add the waiting room. Director Brandt.
Here.
Director Aguilar is absent. Director Bertrand. He's here. Director Freeman.
Here.
Director Flaherty.
Here.
Director Topliff.
Here.
Dr. Deschler.
Here.
All right. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, Anascoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. With that, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Do any directors have items they wish to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion made by Topliff. Is there a second? I see a hand from Flaherty. We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Director Brandt.
Yes.
Director Flaherty.
Yes.
Director Freeman.
Yes.
Dr. Topliff.
Yes.
Dr. Bertrand. And Director Deschler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Now we're going to move to the public comment period. This is the time for any member of the public to speak on any matter that is not on today's agenda. If you have comments on an item that is on our agenda today, we'll go to comments on that item when we take up that item. Any general public comments, please hit the raise hand button or put something in the chat. The first that I see is Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to make a public comment about an email I just sent to you all maybe like 2 hours ago about the AARP Community Challenge Grant. And I want to be clear, I didn't send it to Director Topliff because there was no email listed for her on the IVCSD website. Didn't mean to exclude. It is the AARP Community Challenge Grant, which is a grant run by the AARP, which is supposed to be for like infrastructure and projects that bring communities together. The grants range in size from anywhere from $1,000 to about $70,000. They're given to nonprofits and local municipalities. And really the whole purpose is to bring people of various ages together. They do, the AARP being an organization for retired citizens, is there to be serving people over the age of 50, but they also in this grant really want to bring various age groups together with that group. And when I read the AARP Community Challenge Grant description 1 year ago for 2021, the first thing I thought of is that this would be right for the CSD, not because I love the CSD, which I do. It's because I really can imagine doing a project to get the citizens of Friendship Manor in harmony, or bringing them in community with more of the younger students that we have in the Isla Vista community. This would be really, really right for it. And so the application opened today, and I think it goes until March 25th. And I would really encourage the CSD to think of a project that could be applied for the AARP Community Challenge Grant, especially maybe it's something that has to do with the STEP grant, or maybe something that can be in conjunction with these ideas. So just wanted to put it on your radar. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that, Mark. We appreciate it, and we will certainly be looking at that for opportunities. Any other public comments on items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. And we're going to move to the first action item on today's agenda, which is the letter of support for County of Santa Barbara sidewalk grant application. And I'll go ahead and give a little context to this item. This is an item that comes to us kind of on short notice. The county right now is preparing a grant application for sidewalk improvements on Camino Corto. And the deadline for submission of the application is coming up very soon. It's on February 1st. Catherine and I had a separate meeting last week with a number of folks about the potential for bike share, electric bike share in Isla Vista, and got connected with the Public Works staff lead on this application, who had a longer conversation with him, and he asked if we would submit a letter of support for the application, as it helps increase the chances that they'll win the grant. The grant is from SBCAG. It's Measure A funding from the Safe Routes to School program, and it's seeking $400,000 to connect the sidewalk that currently exists on the east side of Camino Corto all the way down to Del Playa, where right now it ends at Posado. And this is a route to and from Ivy Elementary School and the Santa Catalina dorm area, which we had a great conversation about how there's so much more than just dormitories at Santa Catalina. There's many educational services that UCSB offers there, and which I think helps even the positionality of the grant even more. I know that just in reviewing a lot of the public input our board has received about various transportation related things over the last number of years, we've gotten some specific feedback on this area in particular as one that could use improvements. As a former neighbor of this project area, I can say I have personal experience seeing how there are definitely dangers to the fact that it's not that easy for cyclists and drivers to be able to see when some of the public right-of-way in that area is obstructed. So that's kind of a nice little secondary benefit, I think, of this project, is to reclaim that public right-of-way to make sightlines more visible. And in the past, our board has gotten feedback from the community that we've taken into account and taken positions on Public Works, particularly encouraging Public Works to prioritize projects, sidewalk projects that are north-south, and this is a north-south street. So I thought it would be right for our support and put together this letter. So I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has some, but I hope we can approve this tonight, just given the timeline constraints that they're under right now. Director Deschler.
Hi. My question that I had on this project was, so it's going to is it going to SBCAG or is it going to Public Works? Who is the letter to?
So the letter is to SBCAG supporting Public Works grant application for the Measure A funds.
Okay, so one thing I thought that might be helpful to strengthen the letter would be to talk about, it's not just Santa Catalina, the two towers, it's the San Joaquin Villages, then you have Sierra Madre, and then you have married family student housing. And when you look at all those entities together, that's a sizable population. So I think maybe we can strengthen the impact if we talk about all those university properties.
Thanks, Director Deschler. That's a great point, and definitely can make adjustments to the letter to reflect that. This is something that myself and the Public Works staff are actually talked about. Is it's so much more than just the one dorm. It's all of the housing there and all of the services that UCSB provides for its students and for the broader community. You know, one of the things we talked about is this is where a vote center is located. So people from Isla Vista are navigating to that area to receive services, and it only makes sense that there be, you know, that route. So I appreciate that, and we can make an adjustment to that effect. Director Freeman.
or we're bringing up use cases for this particular stretch of road. This is also it's one of the strong, I mean, like for people who are coming from Stork Road. This is the, as I was as a pedestrian walking from my apartment for 12, 15 years, a couple blocks north of Isla Vista, is one of the core ways you get to the beach. And so from a coastal access perspective, having a nice pedestrian path to there is good.
Absolutely. That's another thing we spoke about as well. We've got those 2 coastal access points right there, and then the Sea Lookout Park, which to me is a jewel, my favorite park in all of Isla Vista. And great to have that pedestrian access there.
Yeah, it's wonderful to finally have a sidewalk project that I'm excited to support. Usually the word sidewalk comes up and I just start bristling about over the waste of money and the trees to be pulled out, but the north-south sidewalks have been horribly lacking for as long as I've been here. And so this is amazing.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
One last thing I'll just say is that, I mentioned the university properties around there, but there's also Stork Ranch, and a lot of people access, just like Jay was saying, that people access that area to the beach from Stork Ranch. And those are City of Goleta residents. So I can really see that it's a project that really benefits the entire community. And I think talking about the benefit to Goleta residents may strengthen our application.
Thank you. I will just clarify, not our application, County Public Works application that we are very happy to support. But yes, I agree with you.
Okay.
Well, seeing no other board comments, I'll open it up for public comment. If you have a comment from a member of the public, you can hit the raise hand button or put something in the chat box. And I see a hand from Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Hi again. Very obvious. I love sidewalk projects. I like more walking and biking infrastructure. I just had 2 kind of niche comments. I guess one is I would also consider the campus point area an additional learning environment where research is done and where students are doing research and part of the educational institution of UC Santa Barbara. So I think although I like the idea of a beach being an important area, I think it's also something that we can consider within the grant application as a part of the natural research environment that the university has to offer. On a different note, I just want to say that I think I have seen projects in the past, specifically the sidewalk on Posado being a great addition, but just way too thin of a sidewalk. It's maybe 3 feet wide. 2 people can't walk by each other. I have had, I just feel I personally have walked on that sidewalk past women who are also walking that sidewalk. And I just feel the social pressure just to move away because it's just such a close pass and it's uncomfortable. And so while I am supportive of any sidewalk being built, regardless of how big or small, I just want to continue advocating for large and wide sidewalks that can actually accommodate multiple people walking at once and 2 people sign languaging to each other at once, signing to each other at once. Those sorts of things I want to advocate for. And more importantly, I want to advocate for documentation that actually shows that, because the current documents that I see posted on this agenda item only show the length of the sidewalk, about 212 feet in one section, I think another 212 feet in another section, and then 175 feet in another section. They don't actually show the width of the sidewalk. And I as a member of the public, I would just love to see those documents for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I can definitely pass that along. One thing I should have mentioned is that the grant is for the engineering work, which is what would produce those plans of what the width would be. But I will definitely pass that along to the public works staff. Are there any other comments from members of the public on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for any other discussion or a motion.
I'll move to support this grant application with the revised letter as per our discussion.
It's been a motion made by Topliff. Is there a second?
Second.
seconded by Deschler. Any further comments? I see a hand from Director Bertrand.
Yes, thank you. Can we clarify in the motion that this letter is to Santa Barbara CAG?
Is that
Works for
friendly?
me. Sure.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right. Well, seeing no other comments, I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Director Brandt,
Yes.
Director Flaherty,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Director Topliff,
Yes.
Director Bertrand,
Yes.
Dr. Deschler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the Santa Barbara County Public Works staff for working on this project. Next, we're going to go to item 4.2, District COVID-19 update, and I'll hand it over to staff.
Great, thank you. So we haven't had this item in a couple weeks to a couple months. Wanted to just give some updates on what we've been doing. Mainly what we've been focusing on in January is distributing rapid COVID tests that the County of Santa Barbara has distributed to us. And so we did a distribution the first weekend of January for around 200 tests were distributed. And then we received around 450 tests last Thursday. And we had a distribution on Saturday. We had another one today. And we are able to continue requesting more from the county and continue more distribution efforts. So now it's becoming, we've gotten a system for it and doing it. And Maya has enjoyed doing it. So as an event at the community center. And so we've been focusing on that. I also can say that we received a request from IVYP to potentially partner on a vaccine clinic also at the community center. So those have been our efforts to get testing options out to the community and hopefully soon a vaccine clinic in the middle of Isla Vista for boosters.
Thank you, Jonathan. I see a hand from Director Freeman.
So I think that the first test distribution event with the 200 tests, the 200 tests were picked up within like 5 or 6 minutes. I'm curious how long the 450 tests lasted, if you happen to know.
Yeah, Director Aguilar and I and Maya did it on Saturday. We were out there for an hour and we distributed around 100 to 150 tests. And Maya was out there today, and I haven't gotten the report back from her on how many she was able to give out today.
It's not the same situation where like all of the tests just immediately like we aren't current, like do we actually have tests now? You're saying that we might actually still have tests that haven't, like,
we might have a few left from today's distribution. The hope was we had a longer time today to distribute. And so we hoped that they would get all out, but we have the option to always request more as we run out.
I was kind of just asking some the speed at which the large pile of tests immediately gets distributed out kind of helps get an understanding of what the current demand is for tests and the need for us to stockpile more. And so, yeah.
Right. Yeah, since the 200 went so fast, we said, well, let's go to 400. Let's double that. And then that didn't go quite as fast, but it makes sense. I mean, the federal government has released those 4 tests to USPS, which wasn't yet implemented when we did the last distribution. So I think there was more demand then because it was harder to get a test. Now it's easier.
I see a hand from Director Bertrand. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Well, really appreciate staff's work on this and the partnership with the Public Health Department. I stopped by the distribution event today and really glad to see Maya out there handing out the tests. And if we need to broaden our efforts to include additional distribution times or even setting up, say, on a street corner where we're catching people as they pass by, keep us posted to how we can support. And then one thing I would encourage us to also think about is, I know the federal government has announced that they will be spearheading a distribution effort for N95 and KN95 type masks, which is going through a similar distribution as the test kits. So perhaps that's something that we can give out in the coming weeks when that comes to our community. Because I know a lot of folks right now are confused about what mask you can wear, what mask might not be providing you with adequate protection for Omicron. But just something to plan for and think about for the future. Thank you.
We definitely had people asking if we had masks as well when we were giving out tests. So something to do.
Director Deschler.
Yes, I just want to mention that the university had partnered with Santa Barbara County Public Health on a vaccine and booster clinic at Embarcadero Hall, and that was through the month of January. And it'll be announced shortly that that will extend through the month of February as well. So as I get that information, I'll share it so that it can be posted on our website.
Thank you for sharing that, Director Deschler. And is that clinic open to all members of the public, or is that just open to, I'm seeing you're nodding your head.
Yes, I'm nodding my head. It's open to everyone.
Cool. Excellent. Glad to hear. Any other questions on COVID-19 safety? Well, I see a hand from Director Bertrand. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, one more thought I have is when we are promoting these opportunities to get test kits, we may also want to push out whatever public health's recommendation is on booster shots and the messages that they have there. Just anecdotally, I've heard a lot of younger folks perhaps not knowing the real need to get a booster shot in a timely manner. I think when boosters first came out, there was a thought that this is just something that's supplemental, but now we're really recognizing that it's needed protection, and just want to make sure that all community members understand that, especially since the original definition of being fully vaccinated was getting your 2 doses. So just another thing that perhaps we can help on.
It's great feedback, Director Bertrand. I have a question, or I'll introduce something to the board. So after seeing a number of other local government agencies, some of our sister special districts, considering vaccine or testing requirements for employees, I asked our council to give us a brief on if that's something that is that the district is allowed to do. Can you speak to that, council?
Yes, the district has that ability to impose a vaccine mandate with respect to employees and certain contractors engaging in certain types of activities that have a high number of touch points or contact with the public. There do need to be accommodations made for religious exemptions and medical exemptions or accommodations under the ADA. But generally speaking, for employees and contractors, under those circumstances, the district can impose a vaccine requirement or alternatively a testing requirement.
Thank you for that. And so you kind of spoke to it, but can you describe how it works? Because I understand that some employees or employers, I think this is how the county has done it, have done a vaccine or testing requirement for employees where the employer administers the testing, and then some employers have done just a vaccine requirement where there are exemptions, but there's not that testing element. Do the two go together, or how does that work?
It can, and typically, they do, because the concern for the transmissibility of COVID remains for those folks who have medical reasons or who have a religious exemption for receiving the vaccine. But generally speaking, in those situations, having a testing requirement doesn't impact the reason for the medical exemption, and it doesn't impact the reason for the religious exemption. So it's a way to backstop the kind of the gap in the information. So, and it's accomplished either through an attestation or of vaccination status. If the employee voluntarily provides a copy of their vaccination card, for example, and in the absence of those, and in the presence of either a medical accommodation, a religious accommodation, then typically the follow-up is please engage in weekly testing, or if you've been exposed, a rapid test to help verify where you are at that point in time.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Council. I asked Council to look into it just because I think this is something that we should discuss at a future meeting, just in light of the continued spread of Omicron and really thinking about our employees and wanting to help them stay as safe as possible, but would definitely want to seek more input from our employees and give more notice to everyone before we have a discussion like that. So thanks for giving us a little preview of that, Ross. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. And just to make sure the record's clear, the question asked was whether the district can impose a vaccine mandate on its employees and its contractors, not within the district. So I don't want anybody, members of the public or anybody watching the YouTube stream, to get the idea that IVCSD is looking at imposing a vaccine mandate in Isla Vista. That is not what my opinion was asked for, and that's not something that my opinion considers.
Yeah, thank you for making that clarification, Ross. Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, we'll open up public comment. Are there any comments from members of the public on this item? I see a hand from Rodney Gould. Go ahead, Rodney.
Hello. I just wanted to say that when people are asking about masks, when you're doing your distributions, we're currently handing out at the Pardall Center free N95 masks. We have a table out front from about 10:30 till 2 o'clock every day, and people can just walk up and grab one. I also wanted to just mention that, you're probably already aware, but UCSB has made the boosters mandatory for staff and students on campus. So, just something to know. And then I was just curious, the test that you're passing out, and they also have free testing for the same. And the testing that you're doing, are they the nose or the saliva tests, the ones that you're handing out?
I'm pretty sure it's the nose one. I haven't used one myself because we're just handing them out, but I think I saw in the instructions it was the nose instructions.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Rodney. And that's a great resource for students looking for N95 masks. I know they can be in short supply right now, in the KN95s as well. So thank you for sharing that. Are there any other comments from members of the public on this item? All right, well, seeing none, we will close this item and we will move to 4.3, the 2022-2023 budget process timeline.
All right, let me share my screen here. It's as if yesterday we just approved our budget and now we are back on the budget process. It does go like that. So I'm just going to start here from the bottom. So every year IVCSD has to approve an annual budget, and our budget process over the last 4 or 5 years has evolved over time to become more and more complex because of the nature of the amount of programs and services we fund. So what this budget process really reflects is going through a phase between February and June of hearing, well, I'll actually, yeah, my bad. February through May mainly would be going through and looking at annual reports for the performance and goals and achievements of our programs And so the first one is on February 8th is the plan for the compost collective. And so we've done these every year. It hasn't been as formalized, but this year is one year I'm trying to get them all on a regular formal schedule for the next year. So if they're doing it in February this year, we aim to do it again in February next year. So I'm trying to get more of a set calendar for this. But of course, these things do move based on, if staff can get the report done in time, or if someone gets sick and we have to delay for a week for a meeting. So this is just a tentative schedule. We will be flexible as we might need to be. But the idea is to first do a round of annual reports and then concurrently, but kind of in a lagging fashion, do budget discussions. And so the annual reports are really to dig deep into the actual operation of that program, what it wants to accomplish in the next year, what its needs might be, and really to focus on that program. And then the separate discussions for the budget would be opportunities to share where the board is feeling they would want to go, and for the finance committee to bring its draft ideas to the board. So we kind of did that last year, where we had the finance committee meet, come up with budgets for the different program areas, and then the board would review those and discuss them. And then those would add up into a preliminary budget in June. Excuse me. And then we'll take July and the beginning of August to fine tune the budget and incorporate any last changes and approve the budget again in August, which we've approved the budget in August 3 times at this point as a district, in 2018, in 2020 and 2021. 2019 we were early, we did it in June. But I think it's always good to have the extra time with how our budget has evolved and changed. It's good for us to have that time to get the final actual numbers for the utility user tax, for example, from June, and make that into a better prediction for next year on our revenue. So yeah, that's the idea behind the budget, that it still includes a community engagement component, which this year we can take to the next level, since it's the first time where we've got Sydney on board as our community engagement director. So what we've usually done is in April is the bulk of our community engagement on the budget, and that's still the plan, is to ramp it up and get started in March and really focus on April. We'll have a budget town hall like we normally do, and hopefully this year we'll have more ability to be out in public and receive input from tabling and canvassing and other ways that we've had success doing so in the past that we weren't able to do in the past 2 years as effectively. So we want to get back to our robust budget input process that brings in a lot of good advice and engagement for the district. And so the finance committee will also, it's usually met once per month during this process. Sometimes it'll meet twice per month to get extra work done that needs to be done. But really, if you want to look at it like a cycle, the board will hear an annual report for a program. The finance committee will discuss that program area and look at what the next year's budget could look like for it. Then the board will review that budget area and discuss that area as a whole. Then the finance committee will take that into account to put the final budget, or the preliminary then final budget, together. So that's the budget process.
Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing. Are there any questions from board members? Director Bertrand.
Thank you. I would just comment that this process each year has been one of our greatest community engagement activities, where we really go out and seek to better understand community priorities. And just looking at how much our team has been strengthened over the last year with our staff, and having Sydney, as well as new board members that represent different parts of the community, I think we're really well set up to reach out to many folks and build upon our already successful efforts in this. So looking forward to participating.
Thank you, Director Bertrand. Director Topliff.
I just wanted to confirm that I believe I'm a new member of the Finance Committee, and wonder if we have our next meeting set.
That's something we need to do. So what we usually do is we'll find a time. Usually it's been Mondays, but we can pick any time that works for everybody, and then we'll have a first meeting, and then you'll set a regular meeting time.
Okay, I'll look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah. Well, the goal is to do it, but we'll get our first one in February sometime.
Great.
Thank you for that. And I'll just share for the benefit of the board and the public that the finance committee is a standing committee, so it does have publicly accessible meetings that will be broadcast on Zoom, just like we are here right now, for folks who are interested in participating. But I just want to echo the comments of Director Bertrand. When going back and sort of writing the support letter that we were just talking about earlier for the sidewalks, all of the input that I was able to find came from our budget priorities surveys, which are robust, in some years with hundreds of responses. And I'm really excited and hoping that we can even take it to the next level this year now as we start to emerge from the pandemic. And we have such a strong community engagement staff member with us that I know who has a lot on their plate with the STEP grant process as well. But I really enjoyed canvassing and talking to our neighbors about the STEP town hall, and have enjoyed in the past canvassing and talking about the budget priorities survey. So public health willing, I am very excited to participate in that as well, and get more feedback from people in the community. Any other questions or comments from board members? All right, seeing none, I'll open up public comment. Any member of the public who would like to speak can hit the raise hand button or put something in the chat. All right, I see a comment in the chat from Mark about the process being clear, and thank you, guys. Thank you, Mark. Not seeing any other public comments, I'm going to close public comment. I'll say one more thing too about the process that I've really enjoyed as it's evolved is that we're able to drill down into like these specific programs and have a public hearing to talk about and evaluate them. And for our board, also for members of the public too that are engaged and interested, I encourage us all to really do our homework. Those hearings are so important and very robust, and we get so much information. And in the budget process, I mean, you're getting a ton of information all the time. It's a really great opportunity for us to dig down into the details of these different programs. So I'll be looking forward to those. I'm going to move to the next item, which is the Resolution 22-1, subsequent adoption of AB 361.
Board has considered these continuing resolutions in the past. You'll probably remember that AB 361 requires an analysis of whether conditions can continue to exist to have remote meetings via this format, as opposed to using the teleconference rules under the Brown Act, which are typically pretty onerous and certainly do not take into consideration the health concerns raised specifically by COVID. After the initial adoption of the resolution, the statute requires revisiting the conditions and reasoning every 30 days to reaffirm, one, the existence of a statewide declaration of emergency, and the governor's declaration from March 2020 remains in effect, and we anticipate it's going to remain in effect indefinitely until something significant changes on the ground with respect to transmissibility of COVID, additional variants are starting to be tamped down, et cetera. And the other prong is either A, there are Department of Health orders that cover the jurisdiction recommending or requiring health mitigation measures like wearing masks and specifically social distancing, or B, the local agency makes a finding that meeting in person would not be conducive to maintaining public health. So in this instance, the 22-1 includes the most recent health orders from Santa Barbara County. and issued at the beginning of January. So we regularly check the relevant health departments to make sure that we are citing the most recent and up-to-date language from their health orders. And so the first condition and the first of the two and the second condition are both present, which authorize the board to adopt this resolution to continue meeting remotely for an additional 30-day period.
Thank you for sharing, Ross. Are there any questions from our board? Director Deschler.
So if we approve this, we're essentially giving permission to the board to meet remotely for the next 30 days. But we can decide whether or not we want to not do that. For example, if we do a retreat within the next 30 days.
Right. What this does is it sets the stage for the use of these remote procedures, not only for the board of directors, but for all Brown Act bodies of the district. So all of the standing committees that also follow the Brown Act would also be able to meet remotely. So any public meeting that occurs is able to utilize those procedures. If a meeting is not going to be using the remote procedures, then you simply have to follow the Brown Act. And for purposes of public transparency, just tell the public how it is that you're going to be meeting and how it is that they can observe and participate.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Director Deschler. Are there any other questions from board members? Seeing none, I'll open up public comment. Are there any members of the public that have comments on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Just checked the Santa Barbara County Public Health dashboard, and right now we're at 180 cases per 100,000 people, which thankfully is the beginning of an improvement of the case rate that we hope continues to be sustained. I think it's very prudent for us to preserve public health and pass this for the next month. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of the recommendation to continue to meet remotely.
I will second.
Made by Bertrand, seconded by Freeman. Any other comments? All right, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Brent,
Yes.
Dr. Flaherty,
Yes.
Dr. Freeman,
Yes.
Dr. Deschler,
Yes.
Director Topliff,
Yes.
and that's everyone, right?
I vote yes.
Oh, Bertrand, sorry, I thought I called you first. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right, motion passes. Now we're going to move to item 5, reports. First, from members of the board, do any board members have reports they'd like to share? Director Freeman.
I have been elected now as the vice president of the Santa Barbara County local chapter of the California Special Districts Association as of the meeting last night, where we also, due to a paperwork snafu, were originally trying to obtain quorum, and then we managed to, this long and involved saga that has resulted in, we will now be moving on to a mail-in election for the local agency formation commission voting member position, which may or may not, based on Mike's description yesterday, which was not what the LAFCO lawyers had said initially, will involve a renomination process. And so this is potentially going to take another 4 months. So.
Thanks, Director Freeman. And question for you. So during those 4 months, do you continue to serve as the LAFCO commissioner, or is that seat vacant?
I have not 100% verified this again yet, but I'm very confident that I had read in one of the earlier descriptions, to the point where this is the reason why I haven't really re-verified it, is that I will continue to serve until such time as the seat is refilled. It will not, you'd think that it could be that it would just go to, because we have an alternate who would sit in, but the way it had been written before, I believe I will continue to serve. Although interestingly, a lot of the things that have been written have been kind of wrong from the perspective of the lawyers. So I guess I should call Bill and find out. Bill had been hoping to not have it take that long, that we would just immediately go to the mail-in ballot process. But Mike announced at the meeting yesterday that it would do a renomination process, which takes much longer. And so we will see where this goes. But
All right. Well, thanks for that update. Keep us in the loop once we hear more about that. Are there any other reports from members of the board? All right. Well, seeing none, we'll move to reports from standing and ad hoc committees. I see a hand from Director Bertrand.
Yes, thank you. I actually thought of a report. Since our last meeting, I met with Lauren Roberts of the Thriving Initiative, which is an awesome nonprofit that was founded in the Isla Vista and UCSB campus community that works to support survivors of sexual assault and interpersonal violence. What was really interesting about this program is they identified a gap in services where a lot of the existing services for survivors are focused on helping them address the specific trauma that they faced through counseling, through advocacy, and other supports. But what the Thriving Initiative does is it really gives people a safe space to just engage in different wellness activities in a way that's open to all community members and that's confidential. So I was in touch with their executive director, who's a recent UCSB grad, and just really impressed with her program. I told her about the different services that our district provides in partnership with organizations like STESA, UCPD, and other service providers. And I will work with that organization to hopefully bring an item to our board in the future just to learn more about their services, because they're serving a lot of our community members and accomplishing great results.
Thank you for sharing, Director Bertrand. That sounds like an excellent program, and I'm excited to learn more about it in the future. Any other reports from committees? I'll share that the ad hoc committee for the alternative event during Deltopia met with one proposer today and is having a follow-up site visit meeting on Friday of this week with myself, Catherine, Carrie, and Jonathan, and looking forward to hopefully bringing forward a recommendation to the board at our next meeting. Director Freeman.
the committee working on the proposal for the parking study had a meeting with County Public Works, including somebody from the local traffic roads division that I've worked with many times before, Gary Smart, in order to discuss both their opinions on the proposals as they stand, as well as to help bridge the connection between our two organizations as we work towards this common goal.
Thank you for that update, Director Freeman. Any other committee updates? Seeing none, we'll move to a report from District Council.
Other than continuing to monitor COVID, it's fairly quiet. We're going to be getting an update from CSDA on a lot of laws that are coming into effect. I'm going to be attending one of their presentations to match against some of the bills that we've been tracking. If there's anything that's relevant for IVCSD, I'll bring it to you at a future district council report. But other than continuing and hoping for COVID to be on the uptick and in a positive way, nothing else to report.
I'm glad you mentioned new laws going into effect, because I have something that I do have a question about, but I'll talk to you about it offline because it's a somewhat complicated new law I heard about. Report from General Manager.
Great, thank you. So first up, It's the same structure for every report, if you guys haven't noticed. So the first thing is community engagement. Sydney was on a well-deserved vacation last week, but our first newsletter went out. So hope you all read that, and we're gonna finally transition to constant contact for our emails now instead of Google Groups, which was something we started in 2017 as a way to get started, but onto new technology. The Compost Collective, things are going well there. I reported at the last meeting that the program was paused due to employees being out sick. So we're just getting out of that this past few days and starting to drop off buckets and get the program started. But on the other flip side, the I Love Us a Beautiful program, I just learned is going to be on hiatus for about 2 weeks because now that staff is out sick. So until they're able to come back, we won't be able to operate that program. Safety stations and interpersonal violence investigator, I have nothing to report. We're waiting on the December report from Covina, Detective Avila, on what her activity was that month. Nothing new to report on rental mediation, but I'll just say we did get some solid amount of requests to use the program and had a couple mediations actually happen and go through this month. So that was really successful and better than nothing, which it's been pretty good there. Ivy Community Center, Maya is off to a great start. I've spent a lot of time last week working with her to get her trained and accustomed to the building, gave her the tour of the facilities last week. She's really excited about everything and has a lot of ideas and energy. So I'll ask her to give an update at a February meeting, just so you all see some of her thoughts on programs and space use. We confirmed 2 major uses of the community center on Friday. One is Jeffrey's Jazz House is going to be this Friday, and then the June 7th election polling center, voting center. So we've got 2 major uses confirmed. So we're just going to keep going with them. And Maya has been building relationships all over the community to garner more use. So that's been going well. On the facilities side, kind of related, is we're waiting on that building report. So last meeting we had just finished it, so waiting to get that. But Maya actually has some ideas for some temporary solutions to our issues, like without having a floor. She's, actually Rodney's here. He donated a temporary floor to us 2 years ago that we weren't able to use until now. So thank you, Rodney. We're using that now. And she has an idea to get up plants installed all over the community center to reduce the echo and use the plants as a way to do that. Very, really innovative. So I'm excited about that. Our STEP grant is moving along strongly. Our survey is almost ready to be released to the public. We just got our final, looking like we're getting our final touches on it now. And so, yeah, we're excited about where that's going. We just had the application period for the coordinator close yesterday. So we're gonna see where we're gonna go with that, but STEP grant's moving along. I think our parking committees have reported on what's going on. I'll just let the board know. I let the planning proposal, KTUA, I let them know that we were going to wait until February to make a decision to move forward. They were totally understanding, and they said they'll be in town next Wednesday if we wanted to meet with them in person. So that's an option they'll let me know about. Something in terms of the alternative response project. So last week we had our intern meeting where we were working on this, and Marcos and Jay and we had just been meeting right before. So I invited them to come join to listen in to that discussion. So our interns are working on interviewing and assessing from different community organizations who are interested in the topic of alternative response, to assess from them where they're at. We want to see what are the features of a new program that would be welcome, what are the features that wouldn't, because our board did talk about this last May, and we said, let's start exploring what a program could look like. And so they're doing that interview research process with the groups that are interested on the topic to to see where there could be commonalities, what's possible, what they would want that's possible through CSD. And so they're working to do some education too, and what the CSD can do and what it can't do, and try to help the public have a, these community groups have a better understanding. But one thing,
Jonathan, what do you mean by that alternative response? Are you talking about alternative policing response? I'm not familiar with alternative response.
Sorry, yeah, alternative response to armed policing. It's like the discussion we had last May with the SNAP program. So it's a follow-up, just doing the research to validate, would an idea like that work here with the community. But one thing they did put together that was, interesting, we just saw today, is they put a list of different community safety resources to call if residents don't feel comfortable calling law enforcement, which was another topic that had come up in a past board meeting, is how do we provide that resource to people? We can't create an alternative sometimes necessarily, but there are alternatives in the community. So they put together that resource list. I have for the retreat, I have a date in mind. I'm gonna give it to you now, and then maybe let me know either in text or after the meeting, and I'll send an email to remind you. But I'm thinking of February 19th seemed to work for everyone that I heard from. So let me know if the 19th in the morning or in the afternoon, both work for me. I didn't hear a lot of preference on that. We've usually done the morning. But that's what we're aiming for, February 19th as the board retreat. So it's like in between the 2 meetings in February. And yeah, that's my report.
Director Jesler, so you have a question.
You're muted.
Sorry, I couldn't do the unmute and then put my hand down at the same time. It just required too much multitasking. Okay, my question that I wanted to ask you is that I remember that we were going to have the organizers of the Cal Poly community program, SNAP, I can't remember, come to campus, and they come to a meeting, and then they weren't able to because there was a police shooting. And I just wonder, is that on the do we anticipate that we'll have them come back at some point?
Yeah, they did come to one. They came to a meeting in May and presented.
Where was I? Was I not there?
Maybe you weren't at that one, but they did come and presented. Christine gave a good presentation to us, and I'll find you this YouTube link and send it to you.
Okay, forget it.
It was a really good presentation, so.
Send it to me.
I didn't realize.
Any other questions for Jonathan from the board? Well, I just want to add, because I got to meet with Maya recently, Maya and Jonathan, and talk a little bit about just the vision and the direction for the community center. And I'm so excited about the progress that's being made. So excited at the rekindling of some of the programs that we used to provide in the community room before COVID that were so popular, like the Zumba classes and the salsa classes. Now there's a third type of dance class that's being considered. Maybe Jonathan remembers the name. I don't remember it off the top of my head. A specific kind of dancing, but those programs were very popular, especially with a lot of our long-term residents. So I'm very excited that those are in the pipeline, and all the good work that's in the pipeline for that space. Any other questions or comments from the board on General Manager's report? Seeing none, our next meeting will take place on February 8th, 2022 at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And with that, before we adjourn, I want to say a big happy birthday to Director Flaherty. So we'll all give a round of celebration reactions on Zoom.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn, but first I want to ask, is this the shortest meeting ever?
There have been a couple shorter ones, but this is in the top 5. It's in the top 5.
Okay, top 5. Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Made by Dessler, seconded by, is there a second?
I'll second. And great party decorations from Carrie.
Yeah, Zoom is really fighting against it, but we get the gist. All right. Any last public comment? All right. Let's go to roll call vote.
Director Brent,
Yes.
Director Flaherty,
Yes.
happy birthday. Director Freeman,
Yes.
Director Topliff,
Yes.
Director Bertrand,
Yes.
Director Dashwood.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. Good night, everyone. We'll see you in February.